everyone. So I think it was just this past week I made a video called Let's Talk, and it was different tips and tricks of things you can do on Valentine's Day if you're single. And I wanted to start this whole new series about giving you big sisterly kind of advice on different subjects, which could really be about anything. And I wanted to make another one, and so this one's going to be all about piercings, nose piercings and Monroes. And I thought that I would make a video like this in case any of you, are new to piercings, you want to get one, or you're just not really sure how to take good care of them. Like, that's what this whole video is going to be for. So I'm sorry if this is all over the place. I just kind of typed down everything. So I got my nose pierced whenever I was 16, and then I ended up getting my bottom lip pierced, and I kind of had some bad luck with that. I played with it all the time because I had a hoop in there, and it just wasn't the piercing for me, so I ended up taking it out, and I went and I got my Monroe done, and I think I got that when I was around 17. So the first thing I want to say about your nose piercing, I'm going to start off with my nose. And I want to say that it does not hurt as bad as what you might think. I went into it scared crapless. I really wanted my nose pierced for quite some time, but I was just afraid of the pain because I had never had it done, and I was just scared that it was going to hurt. And I went to this tattoo piercing shop, and the girl was really nice. My dad went back there and he held my hand, and she said, okay, take a deep breath in, and I did that, and I had my eyes closed. It didn't take that long. It took a couple minutes, and I was still waiting for her to put the needle into my nose. And I opened up my eyes, and the needle is sticking out of my nose. So she had already pierced my nose, and I didn't even feel it. So it really wasn't that bad. The only thing that I suggest is, always seeking a professional. Maybe do some research and read some reviews on some different tattoo piercing places that are around you. Don't just, go and try and do it yourself. Always make sure that the place that you're going to is sterile and sanitary with all of their needles. I keep getting tweets and stuff with all of their needles and all that stuff, because that is very important, and you could get an infection if you don't treat it correctly. So always see a professional. Sometimes whenever you sleep, your nose stud can fall out, especially if it's just a straight nose stud or an L-shaped nose stud. I've had both. What I suggest is getting a stud that is kind of curled. I will put a picture in here so you guys can see. And these stay in your nose a whole lot better than the straight ones or the L-shaped ones. Those ones fall out a lot easier. But if you have studs that are like that, I would suggest putting a band-aid over them or medical tape over them while you're sleeping. I can't tell you how many times I've lost a nose stud while I was asleep, or how many times it's fell out and I had to put it back in. And it's not a pretty process. I've lost thousands and thousands of nose studs. When you first get your nose pierced, they might suggest that you do not clean it with alcohol. Alcohol can really irritate your nose, especially where you just got it pierced, and burn your wound. Later on down the road, if you want to clean it with alcohol, after it's healed up and everything, you've had it for a while, there's nothing wrong with that. But when you first get it and it's starting to heal, I strongly suggest saline wash. It's very gentle on your nose piercing, and it will definitely heal it up in no time. If your nose is anything like mine and it's very sensitive, then you might not want to maybe use a hoop. I remember whenever I first got my nose pierced and I wanted a hoop, it irritated my nose. It made my nose so sore. I think that it just kind of depends on what kind of nose hoop you get. There's so many different varieties to choose from, and I had one that was a little clasp, and it was very painful going through. And this one that I have in right now, it has a little stop at the end, and you put it in through the inside, and it was so much easier. Yeah, it pretty much all depends on what kind of nose hoop you get. So just look at the right kind for you, pretty much. It's all about what's comfortable for you. Also, whenever you're changing your nose hoop or your stud, I strongly suggest like cleaning it and then taking some petroleum jelly, Vaseline, whatever, and getting a little bit of that on a Q-tip or putting it on the end of your nose stud, and that will help push through. And this might sound kind of gross, it might get a little TMI here, but sometimes when you have like a curved nose hoop in, or you know, you just had it in there for a while, you'll get like boogers stuck to the other side of it, and that kind of actually holds it in place better, so don't pick them. But if it's bothering you, if it bothers you like it does me, I would suggest taking it out. But yeah, petroleum jelly helps it slide in your... After a while, your nose stud can start to smell a little bit. And this is because of all your dead skin cells and your sweat and just all the dirt and nastiness that goes onto your face. This, I would strongly suggest that, you know, you clean it weekly, like take it out and clean it every week, because they can get like an odor to them after a while. I would also suggest getting like a pack of nose studs instead of just one nose stud from wherever you buy them. I mean, most places do sell them like in a pack of several in it. And this is only because, you know, if you lose one, you'll have extra, and just always keep them handy in case, you know, you needed an extra one. Also, if your nose stud has kind of gotten dull over time, a good tip that I suggest is putting it into a cup of rubbing alcohol and letting it sit there for like a good hour or two, and then taking it out, and it will be like all shiny and sparkly again. That's something that I've definitely done. This one might not work, but it may. And as I said before, there are many different varieties that you can choose from when it comes to hoops and studs. And if you find a job that doesn't allow you to have piercings in your face, then I would suggest maybe getting like a smaller nose stud and putting it in there while you're working, because I have had some that were very small that you could like not even tell were on my face. They kind of just looked like a mole or a blemish or something like that. Oh, maybe you could give it a shot. Also, whenever you first get it pierced, and just in general, don't change it constantly. Like, don't take it out every single day, put it back in, because that can make your nose infected and just make it really sore and irritated, and you don't want that. It's better to just leave them in there for a while before you change them. Another thing that I would suggest is if you're having trouble, you know, changing your nose stud, you can't get it back in, I would suggest going to the place where you got it pierced, or just like a piercing tattoo place, and having them help you put it back in, because I've had to do that several times. When I first got my nose pierced, I had trouble putting in the studs, putting in hoops, you know, and I would go to Jess and I would have her help me with them, and she always helped. So yeah, definitely suggest that. And practice makes perfect. You gotta have patience, because they're so tiny sometimes, and you know, it's just really hard to get them in your nose sometimes. So I'm gonna talk about my Monroe. I just want to say that like my Monroe hurt a lot more than nose piercing, and I remembered I went in this time alone because I was getting used to the piercings. Like, I had her put several holes in me. It definitely made my eyes water. I mean, it wasn't that bad. It hurt for like a second, and then it just stopped, and it was kind of sore for a little while, but it wasn't that bad. So yeah, if you're worried about pain, I would give it about like a probably like a 5 or a 6. And one thing I would say before I go any further with this is just make sure that you really want a Monroe before you get one, because unlike a nose piercing, if you were to take it out, like, you can barely tell that you have a scar there. And with a Monroe, I feel like if you were to take it out, like, you're gonna have a scar there, you know, which doesn't bother me that bad, and doesn't bother most people, but you know, just make sure it's something that you really want before you get a piercing right there. Because so with Monroes, you can get the ball Monroes that you screw on, or just like the little screw in to the rod type of Monroes like I have in right now. It's a lot easier with the screw-in kind for me. I always had difficulties with the little balls just because, you know, they were so tiny and they were so hard to get back on there, which really all of them are. I mean, they're all really small to see, but for me, I just prefer the screw-in ones. Personal preference is everything. So just like your nose stud, over time your lip ring will start to grow. This sounds so gross. It will start to grow like this nasty crust stuff around it. So you definitely want to make sure that you clean it as many times as possible to keep that away. I'm sure that they'll tell you this whenever you get it pierced, but the whole healing process with a lip ring is I always get the antiseptic mouthwash or Listerine and swish it around in my mouth. Also, if you've had your lip ring in for a while and you've ate or you just woke up, you have really bad breath, it's nice to take some of that mouthwash and kind of swish it up underneath the lip ring, because sometimes that gunk and that residue from like your bad breath and everything you ate, it can kind of get lodged up underneath there. Also, I heard that you can take some of that saline wash, since it's only salt water, and swish it around in your mouth, and that will also help you heal up your Monroe quicker. When putting on makeup, this goes for the nose piercing and the Monroe piercing. If you're putting on makeup, sometimes you can get like some of your foundation or something on your piercings, which is something that I do all the time, and I would suggest keeping a makeup wipe handy just in case. And also something that I love to do is I like to hold it with my teeth and just kind of tighten it. And I do that all the time just to make sure that it stays on there real good and that it doesn't fall off. And the same thing goes for this. Always keep extra handy just in case you were to lose one, you know, you were to lose a ball off one. It's just always good to be on the safe side. If you have a ball Monroe, I suggest washing your hands beforehand, making sure that they're not greasy or oily or anything like that. Clean the ball first as well. And if you're going to stand over a sink and do it, I'd put the stop up because it could fall down into the drain. Or, you know, if you're going to sit down on the floor in front of the mirror, put a blanket down or something, just in case if you were to drop it, you know, it'll fall on something and you'll be able to find it easier. Because these are really small and they're really hard to get onto the rod if they are really greasy and oily. I've had several difficulties myself with this, and I've just found that it's always easier whenever you wash your hands. I know it's tempting and I do it all the time, but especially whenever you first get your Monroe done, you don't want to play with it constantly, just because, and that goes for your nose piercing too, just because you can get it infected really easy, make your nose really sore. So yeah, you don't want that. And last but not least, don't let anyone make you feel bad for getting a piercing that you want. I know when I first got my nose pierced, a lot of people were making like comments like, oh, wouldn't that hurt your nose? Why did you want to get something like that? You know, stuff like that, and you just have to ignore it. Your body is your body, your skin is your skin, it's your life. Do whatever you want to do with it, and that goes for tattoos as well. If you want a tattoo, by all means, go out and get you a tattoo. It is not their body. They should not have a problem with it. And if they do, who cares, you know? If it's something that you want, you go for it. And that's what I wanted to say, because I know a lot of people have a lot of different opinions on piercings and stuff like that. If you like it, then you rock it. You do you, boo-boo. You do you. So yeah, those were all of my tips and tricks for nose and Monroe piercings. I hope you guys enjoyed this video. If you did, please give me a big old thumbs up. Subscribe to my channel if you have not already and become a morbid maniac. Leave me a comment with any topics that you think would be cool for this whole tips and tricks kind of style let's talk videos, and I will be sure to make a video all about it. And yeah, I will see you guys in my next video.